My name is Julianne Meyer, and I am the host of Own Your Wellness, and I'm excited to be here today. And I have a very special guest who I'm excited to interview. Oh my goodness, I can't wait to start picking her brain. But first, I do want to mention something. I want to honor somebody who passed away recently. Her name's Janaea, and it was rather unexpected because she was so feisty and fierce and a fighter. And honestly, when she told me she needed prayers, I really thought she would pull through no matter what happened. And so for all of the ladies that are watching this show that were impacted by our lovely Janaea, just know that my heart goes out to you as well. And just know that everyone is loved. And as she would say, wake up and live. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to celebrate life. And we're going to talk about doing it healthier. So without further ado, let me bring on my fabulous guest, Kathlyn Carney. Hi.
Hi, Julie. Thank you for having me. And I'm so sorry to hear about your loss.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. And, you know, as I mentioned before we started, this isn't going to be about that. So I want to celebrate life. I want to celebrate her life by honoring the fact that we're here and we're living. So without further ado, I would love for you to share with the audience a bit about yourself and your own wellness journey.
Awesome. Yeah, let's celebrate life, especially coming out of a holiday season or coming into one. Definitely a time to be celebrating and be focusing on so many blessings. My name is Kathlyn Carney, and I am originally from Wilmington, Delaware, and now I live in Dallas, Texas. And my wellness journey really began before I even knew it was beginning. My parents were both really big into health and wellness growing up. And that was just kind of their lifestyle. So I never really understood or appreciated it until much later. My mom had been always focused on eating healthy, and, you know, before Whole Foods and Trader Joe's and some of those other, you know, big name stores were popular, we would first drive like an hour away to random health food stores. Mm-hmm. And then once she got wind of Whole Foods, then we would drive an hour and a half away, like once a month, and stock up. And my dad was always big into sports and athletics and physical activity. So I was set up for success at a pretty young age, which was awesome. Very appreciative of them. And I think that I wasn't always this appreciative. Once I got my driver's license, I, you know, was definitely going through fast food drive-thrus much more often than I was allowed to. We in Delaware have a local like gas station convenience store called Wawa. Yeah. So hitting up Wawa very frequently. And, you know, luckily I was a 3-sport athlete, so I didn't really recognize what, you know, these added junk foods were doing to me until I went to college and, you know, was no longer a 3-sport athlete and had total free reign over what I ate, what I did. And, you know, throughout the 4 years, we'll say I probably gained 25 to 30 pounds. My mental state definitely saw a decline. I was getting sick so much more frequently than I ever had, from urinary tract infections to eye infections to just like a cold that like never seemed to go away. But, you know, all of that was like normal. Like a lot of my friends were, you know, kind of sick frequently and had gained, you know, the freshman 15, which, you know, for some of us was a little bit more than that. And, you know, we're kind of just in this lifestyle of high stress, you know, from school to class to work to extracurriculars to eating kind of junk food and, you know, drinking and, you know, that whole environment. And so that's kind of what I thought was normal until, you know, I had a roommate in college who is a really good friend of mine who was battling like, you know, what's coined a mystery illness. No one really could tell her what it was, or like every single doctor had a different explanation for what it was. And we lived together in a sorority house with 67 other girls, but yeah, but we lived in a room together. And so, just sharing a pretty small space and, trying to understand what was going on with her and how I could be supportive, and kind of seeing that frustration of, I'm just trying this new thing and no one knows what's going on. And, coincidentally, or, whatever the word is, my mom had also gone through similar struggles and battling mystery illnesses. And so she was a really good support for me and my roommate, just to be a listening ear, offer suggestions, drop off care packages, and that kind of stuff. And so that was kind of my first glimpse into seeing the impact that, unhealthy diet and lifestyle choices could have there in the moment. But my biggest wake up call was when my best friend from high school was diagnosed with an autoimmune disease, which was actually a stage 4 cancer.
Wow.
And 3 years later, it came to light that it was actually a misdiagnosis, and she was battling leukemia this whole time.
Oh my goodness. Wow.
Yeah, totally crazy story that has a positive ending. So
yay.
But, that was kind of really the true, we are 23 years old. How do you have stage 4 cancer? And, we grew up together. We lived in the same town. We played the similar sports. And I was just like, what? And that was really when I started taking a look at diet and exercise and mindfulness and, all spirituality and all these aspects of wellness. But when I really began, it's overwhelming. So my first step into it was food, and how can food be used as medicine?
Oh, I love that so much, because that goes back to almost the beginning of time. Let thy food be thy medicine. So what kind of just health, you said you started with food. So obviously you started with yourself. So I'm curious, did you sort of experiment with yourself and figure out, hey, this works for me, this doesn't? And what kind of stuff did you try?
Yeah. So it was the same exact time. My friend Trish, she was going through the, traditional medical routine. She was getting chemotherapy and was, going in and out of specialists. And unfortunately, at the time, the chemotherapy was unsuccessful. And so, another wonderful part about my parents is that they've always been open to holistic medicine. And so I'd been seeing a holistic health practitioner since I was 14. And one of my cousins is an acupuncturist. And so I was like, well, okay, this totally stinks that that the traditional method didn't work, but what else is out there? And so my first step was just, going to Google and looking up cancer fighting foods. And it was your basic kind of fruits, vegetables, whole grains, lean organic meats, that kind of stuff. And so, that was kind of okay, we can do this together. We can find foods that we like. So we leaned heavily on bone broth and soups and smoothies and those types of things at first. And then actually my friend who I lived with in college and my mom, as divine timing would have it, both discovered a book by medical medium or Anthony William called Liver Rescue. And my friend Alexandra had read it and started, living according to his suggestions, and started to heal all of those mystery chronic illnesses that she had when we were roommates in college. And it was crazy. I ran into her at an Eagles football game, and she looked amazing and had all this energy. And I was like, what have you been doing? And she filled me in on this book. And I was like, I need this right now. My friend is going through this and I'm trying to be healthier. Because, I've, finally took a hard look in the mirror and was like, hey, you are a little bit bigger and less healthy than you used to be. So what can we do? And so, taking that cancer fighting foods list that I created and kind of melding it with medical mediums advice, the biggest things were not eating farm raised fish, gluten, dairy, eggs, soy, corn, MSG, and like artificial things with artificial natural flavors, food dyes, those types of things. And so we were like, okay, like we can do this. I think the hardest for me was dairy.
Me too.
Yeah, that was like the last thing that I really cut out. And I can say that I coined myself as like a plant-focused person these days, or a part-time vegan. So I'm not perfect by any means, but at this time I was like, something's got to give. Like, we got to figure this out. So dairy was that kind of last step that I was like, I need to find good alternatives if I'm really going to do this. And once I did, I was like, okay, this is doable. This is a little bit easier. Mm-hmm. And so we just kind of started with that, like upping our fruits and vegetables and not eating those foods on his like no foods list. And the results were crazy. I had lost like 10, 15 pounds in 3 months with not really changing my lifestyle that much, aside from what I was eating. And my friend Trish was feeling better. She, was having more energy. She was kind of starting to recoup from those rounds of chemo. And the craziest part was her and her boyfriend had read a lot about fasting. Mm-hmm. And so they had started fasting 4 days out of the month. And she went a couple months without getting a scan of her tumor. And after implementing these small dietary changes and doing this fasting, there was shrinkage in her tumor that was greater than what she had seen during these 6 rounds of chemo.
Wow.
And that was really, those two, myself included, just feeling better, looking better. And her story, I was like, there's something to this. Like, there is 100% something to this way of eating. And that's when I was like, I need to learn everything.
So now you're kind of an expert.
I mean, I wrote a book about it, and I'm back in school for nutrition education. So in 6 months, hopefully I will be a true expert.
Well, yeah. Hold on a second. I want to do this. Let me ask my next question while I'm putting your link in the chat. So for somebody who wants to maybe start doing some of these things, what would you recommend would be a good first step?
Yeah. So I think the best first step is to just start adding things instead of taking away. I definitely have found through my own experience that being told, hey, can you eat, at least 2 servings or 3 servings of fruits and 3 to 4 servings of vegetables a day? Pick whatever ones you want. And if you are like me and you're like, okay, I'll have a smoothie that has like 3 servings in itself, hide some greens in there, and, a big salad or a big soup to make it like easy to chunk them all in there, then start with that, right? Like, let's start with adding in those delicious fruits and vegetables into your daily routine, in your breakfast, in your lunch, your dinner, your snacks, however it works for you. And once you start to feel more comfortable with those, then would be time to, okay, can you stop eating processed meats as a step if you are, a carnivore or you eat meat? Because processed meat has been recognized by the World Health Organization as a stage 1 carcinogen, totally linked to cancer. So can you eliminate those? Can you, if it's in your budget and your lifestyle, can you start to buy organic fruits and vegetables? Can you buy grass-fed, lean meats, farm and pasture-raised poultry and eggs if you eat those? And can you get gluten-free whole grains such as quinoa and brown rice? Can we start, adding those types in and getting better sources of those foods? Those would be like the main. If you can really up those fruits and vegetables and increase the quality of your foods, I feel like just there, you're going to start to feel and notice a difference.
No, I think that's really good too, because like you said, when you add things in as opposed to taking away, it pushes out some of that other stuff, and you don't feel like you're as deprived and you're full, and I always like to say nobody goes from potato chips to raw kale in one fell swoop. Like, it just doesn't typically work like that. Most people need a little bit of, a slow moving process to get there. And it's like, show yourself a little bit of a break and a little bit of grace and patience, because it's not that easy.
No, oh my gosh. And like I said, my journey to cutting out dairy took a long, long, long time. And like I said, you have to find those good swaps, those good alternatives. To your point about chips, it was funny. I was interviewing for my upcoming podcast, nutritionist Julie Daniluk, and she was like, anybody who says that celery is a replacement for chips, like, just does not understand. Because they are not the same.
No, they are not the same. And whoever said that deserves to be slapped, because it's not even close. It might have a crunch, but it is not the same.
Not the same. So yeah, definitely finding those good alternatives and starting to fill your plate with more of the good stuff and less of the other stuff. Mm-hmm. And like I said, once you start to see those changes, then you'll be like, okay, like, what else can I add in or take out? Like, what else is going to keep me feeling like this?
Exactly. And it's easier to stay with those new changes if you don't flip all of a sudden, because then it's like, if you happen to go back to some other of those old eating habits that you were trying to get rid of, all of a sudden it's like, oh, I give up. I ate that. And why would you do that to yourself? No, I love that. And I love that you mentioned too about hiding these things in your food, because that is a really, really, really good one. And I mentioned this on another show, but I want to mention this again.
Yeah.
I have a friend who has 2 little ones, and she makes them, they do homemade popsicles together at home, and she makes them with, I believe it's zucchini, and and the kids have no idea, so they're bragging about their favorite zucchini popsicles, but they don't know zucchini's in them. So they're saying their favorite food is these popsicles, and all the other parents are thinking, what is this mom feeding their kids? So yeah, you can hide just about anything. And another one that I don't know if you know about this one, Kathlyn, but white beans in a smoothie is a great source of protein, and you can't taste them. So I'm just throwing that one out there.
Yum. I can put up that. I've been doing hemp seeds as my that's protein good. Creamy thing, but I'm definitely gonna have to try white beans next.
Yeah, try it. I gave it a whirl. I was thinking, well, I got a 50-50 shot here, and somebody suggested it to me, and I was like, all right, I'll give it a whirl. I love that. So what are some of your favorite, well, not necessarily substitutions, but what were some of the first things that maybe you thought were like, okay, because obviously celery is not a substitution for potato chips, but what would be some of the things that you've discovered that worked well for you when you were trying to switch over?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question. So I think I was previously really big into bread and cheese. Probably why I was having so many issues from, not feeling well to skin problems, whatever, because gluten and dairy are 2 of the most inflammatory foods. Mm-hmm. So the biggest thing for me was trying to find those good replacements. I love a quesadilla. I love pasta. So how can I do this? And so the brand Siete Tortilla, they have great tortillas for all different types of people. If you have a nut allergy, they have cassava. If you can eat nuts, they have almond and cashew flour tortillas. They have, from the chips to the actual tortilla. So that's really a good replacement. Another brand, Tolerant Organics, just has one ingredient is whatever lentil it's made out of, whether it's red or green or chickpea. That's the only ingredient, and they just made it look like pasta. So you're eating lentils in a much cooler way. And I just would always throw as many different fun things in there as possible. So for a pasta, let's say get a good marinara sauce, organic, with not a lot of ingredients, maybe just tomatoes, olive oil, and basil or some type of seasoning. There's really good Parmesan cheese replacers with nutritional yeast. So that's really easy. And then adding in something that, will make it a little bit green. So maybe some spinach or peas. And that's like a meal that could last you and keep you full for, a couple of days if you wanted to pre-make it. Same thing with the tolerant organic tortillas. You can fill them with so much. I like to make them with Miyoko's has a pretty good cheddar cheese. So have a little cheddar cheese in there, some black beans, a little salsa, some lettuce. I like to saute mushrooms as like a meat replacer. But, if you are eating meat, some boneless, skinless, organic chicken breast or some 90 to 95% lean ground beef in there. And you've got like 2 hearty meals that make you feel like you're eating normal food, what everyone else eats, what you can get at a restaurant.
No, I love that too, because, for me, I grew up eating weird food. So, I grew up with my parents being vegetarian, vegan. So I was always the weird one that had like soy hot dogs on Monday nights with soy cheese. And back then, because I'm older than you, and back then it was disgusting. The soy cheese was disgusting and I hated it, and I love any kind of cheese. But anyway, I digress. The point is though that, that feeling like you're missing out or you're not a part of is such a huge thing with food too. So, like just because you're going to start eating healthier and making better choices doesn't mean you have to give up everything that you love and like the pasta or the quesadillas. I love that. I think that's really important that people understand that. And
it's really fun now. Like me and my boyfriend, we love entertaining and I love to cook for people. And it's so funny. We had people over around the holidays and I made a couple vegan gluten-free dishes. And one of them was a vegan gluten-free pizza. And it was, it was loaded with the cheese alternatives and had a lot of veggies on top. And one of my boyfriend's friends, who is a big meat eater, and was like, that pizza was amazing. How did you do it? And I was telling him, he was like, wait, that was gluten-free? That was gluten-free? That wasn't real cheese? Like he was shocked. And so that's kind of the fun now, is getting to show people and cook for people and have them like see for themselves and taste it themselves. Sometimes, by now they know me and they know that I'm probably not going to serve anything that I wouldn't want to eat. But, when people are first getting to know me, they're always so surprised. And I'm like, see, you could do this. It's not that different. You're not missing out.
Well, I'll tell you one that's funny to me is I took my boyfriend up to meet my parents for Thanksgiving. And he's a big meat eater and my parents are not. And so they made onion dip, the kind with the soup mix. Yeah. But it comes, typically it's made with sour cream. So my stepmom made it with I think it was a tofu version. Yeah. But anyway, he would just ate that up and he had no idea, none whatsoever, that it was dairy free. Granted, it was still onion dip, so it wasn't the healthiest thing in the universe, but it was dairy free. And so, he still got to enjoy that without the dairy. So I like that. It's surprising too. A lot of people don't even realize, because growing up, my stepmom would make me tofu chocolate chip cookies. And one of my best friends at the time, I gave her one and I didn't tell her what it was made of. And she loved it. And then I told her it was tofu and she was like, oh my God, that's disgusting. And I said, you just told me how much you loved it. She's like, but it's tofu. Okay.
It is so funny how the mind plays tricks like that. And that's kind of how I've learned. I'm just like, listen, I'm just going to not say anything. If people ask me what's in it, then I'll tell them. But if they think it tastes good, then that's all they need to know.
Exactly. And that's just another way of proving the point that you can hide food in anything. 100%. Yeah. So on that note, I think it's going to be a good time to go to commercial break. So we'll be back in just a minute. Okay.
Sounds good.
All right. So as I mentioned, it is time for us to go to commercial break. For those of you who are watching us live, hello, and thank you for joining us. And we will be right back after these commercials.
Now, you can vibrationally align your aura. You can gain a larger and spiritual perspective on life, relationships, God, people, wellness, and money. You can also have moments of meditation and reflection any time of the day. And reading the thrilling, adventurous, and mystical story of Shiga will just add more faith to your daily experience of the mystery of the universe.
When drug or alcohol addiction take over, things begin to disappear. Your friends, your family, and eventually, you. Recommended by Dr. Phil, New Method Wellness can help get your life back with individualized treatment plans for dual diagnosis clients. New Method Wellness provides the most highly credentialed treatment in a safe and welcome environment. Call New Method Wellness for your free consultation and ask about our national accreditations. Together, we can put the pieces back together.
Welcome back. If you're just joining us now, my name is Julianne Meyer, and I am the host of Own Your Wellness. And today we have an expert in health and wellness herself, Kathlyn Carney. Let's bring her back on. Hello. So we touched briefly about your book before the commercial break, and I tried to put the link in there, and I'm not in the chat for those people on Facebook and YouTube. I'm not 100% sure it went through because there was some sort of error message. So how can people find your book? Let's talk about that. Yeah. And what about it?
Yeah. So my book is called We Can't Change What We Don't Know, How I Started to Think of Food as Medicine. And it was published at the end of 2019. So still very timely, I would say. And it is available on Amazon. So if you type in my name, or if you go to my website that's up on the screen, there is a link there. Or if you just go on Amazon, type in my name, or type in the title, We Can't Change What We Don't Know, it will pop up. It looks like this. This is the cover. And yeah, so it is a book about my journey with food that I briefly talked about before, my mom's journey with food, my roommate from college that I was talking about, and my friend Trish. So it's kind of all three of our stories and how, those three women in particular, helped guide me through my journey with health and wellness. And then it's a bunch of the research that I did starting in August of 2018 up until the end of 2019. So a year's worth of research packed in there.
Oh, that's amazing. And what else can people find on your website?
Yeah, so my website is still being built, which is really exciting. It launched this summer. And so along with my book on there, you can find blog articles written by me about food, resources. So, when we were talking about before about healthy alternatives, I have a blog post about the best veggie burgers. I have a blog post about the, healthiest fast food restaurants if you're on a road trip or on the go. And it's, obviously very heavily on food since I am a nutrition student. That's what my book's about. But it's also about products that you can use, products that are clean, products that give back. My most recent blog article was for, holiday gift ideas, and they either promoted health and wellness or they gave back to a nonprofit organization. So kind of a mesh of health and wellness and giving back on there. And then you can also find out more about my upcoming audio show that is launching anytime now. There's 12 episodes in season 1. It's called Connecting the Dots. And we are hoping to air, broadcast it in the new year on all of the streaming channels. So Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all of the usual places. It's kind of just the mecca for all of my products, offerings, and my goal for 2022 is to continue to add. I have a 7-day meal plan that I'm planning to upload next month. So a lot of good things to come.
I love that. Yay. I like going back and finding new stuff too, instead of it being stale. That's kind of boring. So I know also that people can reach out to you via social media. So
Yeah.
we got these. I'm not familiar with TikTok. That's not my thing, but I do understand IG. But what can people find when they find you on Instagram and TikTok?
Yeah. So my content on both is, like I said, really food focused, but I am, as I'm expanding into my podcast, the goal of Connecting the Dots was really to be an extension of my book and, honor the fact that, yes, diet is a huge, huge part of wellness. No doubt about it. But there are so many other facets, from physical activity to stress management to community support to just mental health to, all of those other holistic options to health, like muscle testing or acupuncture. So it really kind of encompasses, the other facets of wellness. And so I detail both of those on my Instagram and TikTok. I would say my TikTok is more like quick things like best finds from Trader Joe's, healthy swaps. So that's like little quick videos. And my Instagram is a little bit more in depth, gives more recipes. Over the fall, I did like rating organic wine because organic wine sometimes, has a negative connotation for some people if it's not like the most well-known brand, and so I did a nice little series on that to show people that it's delicious. A lot of fun things on there, some more information about me and my journey. Right before Christmas, we, my boyfriend and I did a 21-day hot detox. So I, was narrating that.
What is a hot detox?
Yeah. So in the practice of Ayurveda, there are, the doshas and the idea that foods are either hot, neutral, or cold. Mm-hmm. And I had been having some digestive problems, and my acupuncturist has been telling me for a long time now that it's probably because of the cold foods that I'm eating. But I kind of refuse to accept that because I love smoothies. And I was like, this is how I get so much of my stuff. But I found out that you can literally just heat up your almond milk or your coconut milk or whatever your water that you put in your smoothies and still have everything else. So I learned that through this hot detox. But essentially, it's really focusing on foods that have hot properties. So that's ginger, that's peppermint, that's cinnamon, nutmeg, all of those spices and foods that are hot, and heating your food, cooking your food. So having a lot of soups, stews, baked goods, hot drinks. I guess hot smoothies is, the way to put it. Good though, surprisingly. And so, just giving your body a break, and getting your body out of stagnation so that it can flow and digest better. And so I detailed a lot of that on my Instagram.
Now, I'm glad you brought that up too, because a lot of people might have been thinking like hot as in super spicy. And I can't do that personally because I just can't. I'm not as bad as my dad. My dad is like, he can't even do pepper. To him, that is like too hot. But I like the idea too, especially in wintertime, because it seems like the perfect time to do that kind of a detox, if anything, you know, because I don't know about you, but I want to feel nice and cozy and warm.
100%. Yeah. And, you know, that was part of it too, is that, you know, what I've been learning over the last year, I've been doing more work with eating seasonally, as well as eating with the 4 weeks of my menstrual cycle.
Mhm.
And a lot of that really does relate to eating seasonally and what you would naturally eat. So, of course, during the winter time, you're naturally eating more of those hot foods and stews. And in the summer, it might be more of an appropriate time to be eating those cold foods, those refreshing fruits and vegetables. And so, yeah, it's been really an interesting process of trying to figure that out, of like the seasons outside, but also the 4 seasons within your cycle. So it's been pretty fun to figure all those things out.
Yeah. And for those of you who are watching, that's a whole nother level after you start taking out the potato chips. So try it one step at a time.
Absolutely.
But that's the beautiful thing. And I'm glad that you brought that up, because once you get going and you start making healthier decisions, that's when you start making other healthier decisions and more healthy decisions. And it's like a lot of people, myself, I've been so guilty of this too, is to say, compare my old self, my let's eat at McDonald's and Taco Bell and all that, to how you're eating now, for example. And it's not the same thing. It's like, you know, you don't go from one to the other, just like most people. I shouldn't say you don't. I'm saying most people don't. So I'm just glad that you brought that up though, because, you know, it gives somebody something to look forward to if they want to go that far down the rabbit hole.
Absolutely. And, you know, what I was finding, and the reason that I, you know, continued into or down the rabbit hole, as you said, is because I was kind of getting stagnant.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, okay, like how can I continue to improve? And I think that's like why I love being in the wellness field so much, is because there's always something new to learn. There's always ways to grow and improve, but also like make it your own. You know, what I've learned so much is that every single person's body is different. Every single person's body responds differently to different diets, different foods. And that's why it's been so fun on social media to post these detoxes or cleanses, or just, you know, talk about what I've been eating and have that dialogue with people of, oh my gosh, I think this is what I'm needing, or, oh, this would never work for me. And that's how I got so big into finding substitutions for people. And, you know, I've been totally vegan. I've been, like I said, plant focused. I've also been in that eating McDonald's every other day space. And so I feel like I can relate and find really good substitutions, alternatives, and help people grow in wherever they are, because odds are I've also been there.
Yeah. And nobody wants to take advice from somebody who's never been there, because like, how, you know, you can't relate. How would you know? So I like that. I like that you share that. So you brought up something that I want to touch on. You were talking about, you know, overall wellness and you mentioned stress. And so we all know that a lot of diseases are stress related. A lot of issues are brought on by stress. What are some of the things that you do personally to either alleviate your stress or minimize it or change your perception of it?
Absolutely. So when I first started to realize that stress was impeding my health, even though I was eating so clean, and even though I was committed to walking every single day and moving every day, I still was not feeling great. And it was really, you know, you have to take a hard look at yourself and be like, what is wrong with my lifestyle that I'm this stressed out? And sometimes, where I was at the beginning of this summer, when I really took that hard look at myself, I couldn't really change my circumstances. I was working 2 jobs that I needed at the time. I was in school, and that's what I'm very driven towards doing. So I wasn't really willing to give that up. And I was balancing, commitments, friendships, relationships, family. The majority of my friends and family live on the East Coast, and I live in Texas. So trying to figure out traveling, and it was a whole lot. And I was like, what is manageable for me to do right now in this like crazy situation that I'm in? And so the first thing that I did was I downloaded the Headspace app, and I was like, I can commit to 10 minutes in the morning and 10 minutes at night to calming my mind. It might not be perfect. I might not totally follow the meditation completely, but this is something I can have 20 minutes in my day. I can do that. Then once I got a little bit more comfortable with that, I was like, I need to find some self-care practices that benefit me physically, but also help me relax. So for me, those have been Epsom salt baths, just spraying magnesium, a magnesium spray on my feet and wearing some comfy fuzzy socks, and sleeping in that. Sometimes that's literally just a cup of chamomile tea or reishi hot chocolate. Sometimes that's all we got time for. So yeah, those were kind of like very small. Then I started to learn more. And so dry brushing was like really great and therapeutic for me, and taking, those 2 minutes to just be focused and do that. And once I got big into some of those little routines, then I was able to be like, wait, I can take these 20 minutes. I can take these extra 5-10 minutes. I can find time for these. What else can I do? And one of my really good friends is a certified yoga instructor, and she's been on me for so long through yoga, especially when I was having those digestive issues. She was like, you need to be doing twists. You need to be doing this. And I was like, when do I have time for yoga? So I started with 15 to 30 minute online classes. Just pull out my yoga mat, sit right behind me, and, do as much time as I had for. And I just started to notice like my stress levels were so much less from doing even 15 minutes of yoga. And I actually ended up doing a research paper for school on yoga, on stress reduction. And it's insane, these studies that they say what yoga and mindfulness can do for your stress and your body, from immune support to helping your HPA access to lowering your blood pressure, like so many different things. And I was like, okay, there's something to this. So I found a community yoga studio here in Dallas that's donation based. And that has been something that has been really realistic for me to implement. And so I think just finding those pieces, no matter what it is in my day, if I have 5 minutes, cool, I'll make myself a cup of tea and sit there with my fuzzy socks. If I have an hour, I'm going straight to yoga class. But just making sure that I have those outlets for myself, that I know that there's a proven way that one of these things is reducing stress, even if it doesn't take a lot of time.
Something that you said that I really want to point out to those people that are watching is that you mentioned things to take 5 minutes and you mentioned things to take an hour. And most people, once again, it's like 0 to 60. I don't have an hour. I don't have a half an hour to go do this. You have 5 minutes. You have 5 minutes. How much time do you spend on social media? You have 5 minutes for yourself. Yeah. And the fact that, like, here's the thing about meditation or even being mindful is if you can be in charge of your brain just for 5 minutes to keep on bringing yourself back, even when it starts to go back, you train your brain who's in charge instead of it taking you up wherever it wants to go. And so, of course, that's going to help with stress, because if you can keep yourself from thinking all the negative stuff, then there you go. That helps. No, I love that though. 5 minutes, half hour, whatever it takes. Something.
And the thing is it's similar to just like the diet. The more you do it, the better you feel, the more you want to do it, and the more willing you will be to make that 30 minutes, that 45 minutes, that hour. Because really, we have time in the day for so much when we're feeling good. It's when we're not feeling good and that every little task is energy draining. That's when we don't feel like we have that time. So that's why it's just so important to start small with food, with mindfulness, with stress reduction, with, whatever it is for you, with a 5-minute walk, a 10-minute walk outside, get that vitamin D, get your heart rate up a little bit, because those small changes will snowball into bigger and you'll start to feel better. And then it'll just like continue on. And so I know that, it's the holidays, we fall a little behind, but I know, okay, if I get up tomorrow morning and I commit to walking the dog for 30 minutes and I commit to, taking a bath at the end of the night, then the next day it'll be a little bit more. The next day it'll be a little bit more. And you'll get right back on track before you know it.
Yeah, it only takes one good decision to get right back on track.
Absolutely.
No, I love that too, because for somebody like me who's almost always been an all or nothing thinker, it's those reminders that, when you don't feel good, you don't feel like doing it. That's when you need to do it, because that's the thing that's actually going to get you to feel better.
Well, that was always the trap that I was falling into when I was like feeling like a little cold. And I feel like, oh, I don't have the energy to take the vitamins that I know that will help, just such silly things. And I'm like, I know that taking this vitamin D and this vitamin C will help me. But when you're sick and you're just so energy deprived, you're like, I can't even do that.
I'm so glad you said that, because I've so been there. I'm like, oh, that's too far away. It's in the kitchen.
Too far. Cannot. I had to open up multiple bottles. No, cannot.
I don't grab some water. I don't want water.
Literally. So yeah, I've had to learn to be like you said, when you're feeling your worst, that's when you need to do those things for yourself.
Exactly. It's kind of like fight through it. I mean, and then there's the thing where, and it's so weird because our brain is tricky. It will it wants to take the path of least resistance. So it's comfortable feeling unwell. So, letting the body feel unwell, because that's where it's at. It takes energy to, do something different and be different and show up different. But once you can get over that hump, then all of a sudden, like you said, it gets easier. And then with the food too, when you say your taste buds changed, and all of a sudden those things that you didn't want to eat, all of a sudden this is actually pretty good.
It's crazy. I forget the exact number of days, so I don't want to get it wrong, but I'm pretty sure it's your taste buds die off and regenerate every 2 weeks, I want to say. Not that long amount of time. So if you're, eating different foods and you're, emphasizing those fruits and less, artificially, candies, whatever, your taste buds change. And so that was one of the craziest things from doing that 21-day detox, where I was cooking everything was made from scratch. When I had on Christmas Eve cake, I was like, oh my gosh, this is so sweet. I was like, oh my goodness, this is too much. Almost I could not eat that much of it because my taste buds had changed in those 21 days. So it's true. Once you stick to it, you'll start craving healthier things.
Yeah, your body will tell you. And that's the thing too that people don't realize is that, when your body is craving sugars and salts, it's typically because something's out of balance anyway. So, that's something to take a look at. Something isn't right there. So that's why you want those things. So I'm curious too, since you brought up the sugar thing, and we don't have a lot of time left, but I'm hoping that you can shed some light on this. There's a lot of processed sugar, and I love to call it recreational sugar, like cake and things like that. And of course, fruits are sugar as well, but it's also fruit.
Right.
But what is your take on, is there such thing as eating too much fruit? Because I know there's people like fruitarians, or does it just sort of depend on the person? What's your take?
Yeah, I definitely do think that it depends on the person. There are some people that are diabetic, pre-diabetic that do have those insulin spikes. However, I don't believe that there is a bad fruit. I do not. I think it's just all about timing and what you're pairing fruit with specifically. So, in the morning, it's so critical that you have a protein. And it does not have to be animal protein, but a protein of some sort, and to have some type of green. Like those are necessary in the mornings to make sure you're not getting that high insulin spike. And pairing that with fruit is totally cool. And so that's kind of, when I'm making those smoothies, now I'm always making sure that I'm putting protein powder in it, that I'm putting those hemp and chia seeds in there, that I'm putting low glycemic fruit for the morning time. So that's your berries. Wild blueberries are my absolute favorite, and leafy greens. So a kale, a spinach in there to make sure that you're leveled out when you're, eating. And I think that really just goes for any time that you're eating fruit or anything that kind of causes an insulin spike. You just want to make sure that you're pairing it with foods that are hearty and that will keep it leveled. But you need 2 to 3 servings of fruit a day at minimum. So eat fruit, please. And I really think also where that misconception comes in is, yes, fruit cups do have a daily serving of fruit, or yes, fruit juice does have a daily serving of fruit, but it also is mixed with those outside sugars that you're talking about. Like if you are eating a clementine or a banana or fresh strawberries, like you're okay. It's when you're getting your servings of fruit mixed with all of the other junk, then maybe that's why you're having some problems.
Yeah, that syrup. That delicious syrup. Yep. And something too, like if you're trying to come off that sugar, it's tough. I know for me, it helped me when I switched to fruit from eating processed sugar, but still wasn't the same. I mean, part of it was just I had to work through it.
Yeah.
That was just part of it. But anyway, enough about that. We have about 2 minutes left. I would love to pop up your website again and remind everyone to get your book. And what parting thoughts would you like to leave with our audience today?
Yeah, I just think that the most important thing is that you can't be too hard on yourself, judge yourself. Like you need to own, in terms of your title, own where you are in that wellness journey and be proud of wherever you are, because I can promise you that you are probably a couple steps ahead than you were previously. Or the fact that you're even contemplating making change, you're a couple steps ahead of where you were previously. So own it where you are, be proud of yourself, give yourself that grace, because our society does not set us up to be successful, does not set us up to, want whole grains, fruits, vegetables. It doesn't. That's not sexy. That's not televised. It's not it. So don't be hard on yourself, but start making those small, tangible changes that I can commit to drinking 8 glasses of water today. I can commit to 5 to 10 minutes of meditation today. I can commit to walking my dog 30 minutes a day, because that's good for both of us, right? What can you commit to doing, and start with that and keep making those baby steps, because it will make so many changes in the long run. And one nutritionist that I talked to, Rosie McCann, she said, if you make one small change a week, by the end of the year, you've made over 50 small changes. So you're going to be way, way better off, especially now that we're about to be in the new year.
Exactly. Can you hold up your book one more time for us, please?
Oh, yes. Here she is.
That way, when people go to Amazon, they know what they're looking for.
Here it is, big, bold font too.
Thank you so much for being on the show today. I really appreciate you, and hopefully you'll be back soon.
Yes, I'd love to be back, and thank you so much for having me. This was so fun.
Yay. All right. Have a great night, my friend.
Bye.
Bye. And unfortunately, that is all the time that we have for today. So we will be back on Thursday. See you guys soon.